The Chola kingdom was a powerful and influential Tamil dynasty that ruled a significant portion of southern India for centuries, from the 9th to the 13th century CE. Their heartland was the fertile Kaveri River delta, from which they expanded to unify peninsular India south of the Tungabhadra River. The dynasty was a major military, economic, and cultural powerhouse in South and Southeast Asia. Important Chola kings and their contributions. Vijayalaya Chola, considered the founder of the imperial Chola dynasty, he rose to prominence in the mid-9th century by taking advantage of a conflict between the Pallavas and Pandyas. He captured Tanjavur and established it as his capital. Aditya I, he succeeded his father Vijayalaya and significantly expanded the Chola territory by defeating the Pallavas and bringing their territories under his control. He is also credited with conquering Kongadesa and capturing Tokad. Parantaka I, known as the destroyer of Madurai, he defeated the Pandyas and Sinhalese invaders, uniting the lands of the Cholas and Pandyas. Rajaraja Chola I, often called Rajaraja the Great, he is considered one of the most prominent Chola rulers. He built a strong army and navy, expanding the empire by conquering territories in Sri Lanka and the Maldives. His most famous contribution is the construction of the magnificent Brihadishwar temple in Thanjavur, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Rajendra Chola I, the son of Rajaraja I, he continued his father's conquests and expanded the empire to its greatest extent. He led a successful military expedition to the Ganges River in North India and sent naval expeditions to Southeast Asia, including the Srivijaya Empire. To commemorate his victories, he established a new capital, Gangaikonda Cholapuram. He also earned the title Pandita Cholan for his patronage of learning. Kulotunga I, he is notable for restoring stability to the empire after a period of political turbulence and for consolidating Chola authority. He abolished many taxes and earned the title Sungam Tavirta, the one who abolished tolls. The Chola dynasty's legacy is immense, particularly in art, architecture, and maritime trade. Their temples, especially the Brihadishwar temple and the temple at Gangaikonda Cholapuram, are considered masterpieces of Dravidian architecture. They were also renowned for their bronze sculptures, with the Nataraja, Shiva as the lord of dance, being a prime example. The Chola naval fleet was one of the first in South Indian history to project power over the seas, enabling them to control trade routes and spread Indian culture to Southeast Asia. The Chola Empire at its peak. The world 1000 years ago. This video provides an overview of the Chola Empire at its height, giving a visual and historical context to their military, economic, and cultural power.
Published by Blogger.com. Amass Guy Mega 9. This public backlash mirrored, in a way, the intense scrutiny faced by sporting icons like Dhoni. Dhoni, in his career, experienced periods where his performance was heavily criticized. Every lost match, every strategic miscalculation, was met with a barrage of negativity from fans and the media, who had once celebrated his every victory. The pedestal upon which he was placed made his fall seem even greater. Kavinesh, like Dhoni, began to feel the pressure. The weight of a city's expectations, the fear of losing the public's trust, and the gnawing doubt in his own abilities threatened to consume him. He became withdrawn, his once sharp mind clouded by anxiety. But Kavinesh, at his core, was a seeker of truth. He retreated from the public eye, choosing to delve deeper into the investigation, ignoring the clamor for a quick solution.
The league had a new home, and the crowd in Kolkata was ecstatic. The Bengal Warriors, playing on their home ground for the first time, were determined to put on a show for their fans. They were led by their captain Nilesh Shinde, a strong defender. Standing in their way were the Telugu Titans, with their star raider Rahul Chaudhary, who was looking to secure a win after a disappointing tie in their last outing. The match began with a bang. The Titans' Rahul Chaudhary was in an aggressive mood, and he made his intentions clear from the start. He was quick and agile, and the Bengal Warriors' defense, despite the home crowd's support, struggled to contain him. He would swiftly get a touch and rush back to the midline, leaving the defenders in his wake. However, the Bengal Warriors' defense, led by Nilesh Shinde, was resilient. They tried to form a strong defensive chain to stop the Titans' raiders. At one point, they successfully executed a powerful tackle, bringing down a Titans raider and earning a point to the cheer of the home crowd. But the Titans' raiding was simply too dominant. Rahul Chaudhary continued his exceptional performance, consistently getting points on the raid. He was not alone, as his teammates also contributed to the raiding, ensuring that the Titans were always in the lead. The second half was a struggle for the Bengal Warriors. They couldn't get their offense going, and their raiders were consistently taken down by the Titans' defense. The Titans' defenders were well coordinated and executed successful tackles to stop the Bengal Warriors' raiding attempts. The deficit grew larger, and despite the Warriors' best efforts, they couldn't close the gap. The Telugu Titans' all-around performance, with their raiders and defenders working in perfect harmony, sealed the victory. The final whistle blew, and the Telugu Titans celebrated a well-deserved win in front of a packed stadium. It was a tough night for the Bengal Warriors, who were hoping for a win at their home venue. The match was a clear display of the Telugu Titans' strength and a reminder of the raiding prowess of Rahul Chaudhary, who once again proved why he was one of the league's top raiders.
லீக் ஒரு புதிய வீட்டை பெற்றது. கொல்கத்தாவில் இருந்த ரசிகர்கள் மகிழ்ச்சியில் ஆழ்ந்தனர். முதல் முறையாக தங்கள் சொந்த மைதானத்தில் விளையாடும் பெங்கால் வாரியர்ஸ் அணி தங்கள் ரசிகர்களுக்கு ஒரு நிகழ்ச்சியை வழங்குவதில் உறுதியாக இருந்தது. வலுவான டிஃபெண்டரான கேப்டன் நிலேஷ் ஷிண்டே அவர்களை வழிநடத்தினார். தெலுங்கு டைட்டன்ஸ் அணியும் ஸ்டார் ரைடர் ராகுல் சவுத்ரியும் கடைசி போட்டியில் ஏமாற்றமளிக்கும் டைக்கு பிறகு வெற்றியை பெற முயற்சித்தனர். போட்டி அபாரமாக தொடங்கியது. டைட்டன்ஸ் அணியின் ராகுல் சவுத்ரி ஆக்ரோஷமான மனநிலையில் இருந்தார். மேலும் அவர் தொடக்கத்திலிருந்தே தனது நோக்கங்களை தெளிவுபடுத்தினார். அவர் விரைவாகவும் சுறுசுறுப்பாகவும் இருந்தார். மேலும் உள்ளூர் ரசிகர்களின் ஆதரவையும் மீறி பெங்கால் வாரியர்ஸின் டிஃபென்ஸ் அவரை கட்டுப்படுத்த போராடியது. அவர் விரைவாக ஒரு தொடுதலை பெற்று மிட்லைனுக்கு திரும்பிச் செல்வார். டிஃபெண்டர்களை அவரது பாதையில் விட்டுவிடுவார். இருப்பினும் நிலேஷ் ஷிண்டே தலைமையிலான பெங்கால் வாரியர்ஸின் டிஃபென்ஸ் அணி மீள்தன்மை கொண்டது.
New and old terminologies. If the context in which the information is changes with the time, whatever the language and the meaning, historical records and the existing in the variety of the languages which have changed considerably over the years, the medieval person, for example, a different of the modern person, and the difference is not just with register to the grammar and work by the meaning of the words is changed in over times. Take a term Hindustan for example today. When we understand it as India modern in nation state, when the term used in the 13th century and Muhammad Hai Siraj, as chronicle who wrote the person in meant in the areas of the Punjab and Haryana and the lands between the Ganga and the Yamuna. He was used the term in the political sensations for the land, and they were the part of the domains of the Delhi Sultan. They are included in the term shifted with the start of the Sultan, but the term never include the South India. By the contrast, in the earlier 16th century, Babhu used the Hindustan to describe the geography and the fauna and the culture of the inhabitants and the subcontinents, as well as the later in this chapter will somewhat similar to this way. In the 14th century, the poet Ambul Rahul used the word Hind, and the wild idea of the geographical and the cultural entry like India did not exist. The term Hindustan not carried by the political national meaning which is associated with it today. Historical stories we have not to be careful with the terms used because they meaning things of the past. They, for example, a simple term like foreigner, they are used today to mean someone who is not an Indian in the medieval period. Foreigner was any stranger who appeared as given village someone who was in the part of the society or culture. In Hindi, the term Parsi will be used to describe the person and in Pakistan and Arabic. A city dweller, therefore, the may be have the existed a forest dweller as a foreigner, but the two persons are living in the same village are not the foreigners to each other to make the different religion or background or castes. Historical Sunday resources. Historicals use different types of sources to learn about the past, depending upon the period and their study and the nature of their investigation. Last year, for example, the nature of their investigation. Last year, you read about the rulers of the Gupta dynasty and the Haravasara. In this book, you will read about the following 1000 years, roughly 700 to 1748. And you will notice some of the continually resources used by the historians to study a period. Still, you are rely on the coins, inscripts, and the agriculture archives and the textual records for information, but they are also the contextual for information, but they are constable discontinue the number of the variety of the textual records increasing dynamities. During this period, they were slowly displaced other types of available information toward this period of the paper gradually become cheaper and more.
The history of the Chola dynasty is primarily reconstructed from a combination of inscriptions, literary works, and foreign accounts. 1. Inscriptions. Inscriptions are the most important primary source for understanding the Cholas. They are a vast and detailed body of records, providing an authentic glimpse into the daily life, administration, and political history of the empire. Stone inscriptions. Over 10,000 inscriptions on temple walls and pillars detail royal genealogies, military conquests, land grants, tax exemptions, and administrative orders. The Uttaramerur inscriptions are particularly famous for their detailed account of the local self-governing village assemblies, Sabha, and the election process of their members. Copper plate grants. These are royal charters etched onto copper plates, recording land grants to individuals or institutions, especially Brahmins and temples. They often contain the king's official genealogy and lists of his ancestors, which help in establishing a chronological history of the dynasty. 2. Literary sources. Chola rulers were great patrons of Tamil literature, and many works from this period provide historical insights. Sangam literature. Although predating the imperial Cholas, ancient Tamil Sangam literature gives us the earliest mentions of the Cholas. Court literature. Works like Kalinga Tupparani by Jayam Kondar, which describes Kulotunga I's invasion of Kalinga, and Muvarula, a work on the three Chola kings by Ottakuttan, offer valuable, albeit hagiographic, accounts of military campaigns and royal life. Religious texts. The compilation of the Thirumurai, a collection of hymns to Shiva and other religious texts, sheds light on the religious and social life of the era. The epic Periya Puranam, written by Secular, also provides a lot of information about the lives of Shaivite saints and the socio-cultural environment. 3. Foreign accounts. Accounts from foreign travelers and diplomats offer an external perspective on the Chola Empire. Ashoka's edicts. The earliest known references to the Cholas come from the major rock edict number 13 of the Mauryan Emperor Ashoka, 3rd century BCE, which mentions them as a friendly neighbor to the south. Chinese records. Chinese historical texts and diplomatic records from the Song and Tang dynasties document the repeated Chola embassies to the Chinese court, which were for both diplomatic and commercial purposes. These records confirm the Cholas' extensive maritime trade networks. Travelogues. Accounts from geographers like Ptolemy and the anonymous author of the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea provide brief descriptions of Chola ports and trade. The Mahavamsa, a Buddhist text from Sri Lanka, also recounts conflicts between the Cholas and Sri Lankans, providing a detailed record of their military campaigns on the island.
Thank you, Jimmy, for the information. Widely and cheap and more widely available. People used to hold the text companions of the rulers, letters, and the teaching of styles, pensions, and judicial records for the register of the accounts and the manuscripts and collected by the wealthy people, rulers, and monasteries, temples. They were placed in a libraries, archives, and measures in documents of the lot of detailed information to the historicals, but difficult to use.
வணக்கம், நான் ஜெமினி. சிக்கலான தலைப்புகள் அல்லது யோசனைகளை பற்றி பேசுவதன் மூலமாகவே அறிவதற்கு லைவ் பயன்முறைக்கு நாம் செல்லவிருக்கிறோம். தொடங்குவதற்கு முன் இந்த முக்கியமான தகவல்களை சற்று பாருங்கள். அருமை, வாருங்கள் தொடங்கலாம். அமைப்புகளுக்கு சென்று பிறகு எப்போது வேண்டுமானாலும் எனது குரலை நீங்கள் மாற்றிக்கொள்ளலாம். சரி, நீங்கள் தயாரானதும் சொல்லுங்கள்.
There are no printing press those days, so scribbles is copied by the manuscripts by the hand. If have you ever copied a friend homework, you would know this is not a simple exercise. Sometimes you can't read your friend's handwriting, focus on to guess what is written, and the result is small, significant different in your copy and your friend homework manuscripts is copying somewhat similar as a scribbles copied manuscripts introduced in a small change, a word here and the sentence there, and the small differences grew over the centuries of the copying till the manuscripts of the same text become the supplementary and different from the each another. This is seriously a problem because we rarely find the original manuscripts of the author. Today we are totally depending upon the copies of the by later scribbles. As the result, historicals had the result different manuscript versions of the text in the same guess to guess the author is originally written.
Nepal turmoil adds to India's woes in South Asia. Published by BBC. Nepal has become the third country in India's immediate neighborhood to see a violent uprising topple its government in recent years. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli resigned after more than 20 people died in clashes with police during anti-government demonstrations triggered by a social media ban. A nationwide curfew is in place and the army is attempting to bring the situation under control after protesters stormed parliament and set fire to the homes of several politicians. For many, the scenes in Kathmandu were reminiscent of the turmoil that gripped Bangladesh last year and Sri Lanka in 2022. Though Bangladesh and Sri Lanka are also India's close neighbors in South Asia, Delhi's relationship with Kathmandu is special because of historic people-to-people, economic and strategic ties. Nepal shares a largely open border of more than 1,750 kilometers, 1,080 miles, with 5 Indian states, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Sikkim, Bihar and West Bengal. Delhi is keenly watching developments across the border, with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi swiftly reacting to the unfolding events. The violence in Nepal is heart-rending. I am anguished that many young people have lost their lives, Modi wrote in a post on X on Tuesday. Stressing that stability, peace and prosperity of Nepal are of utmost importance, he appealed to all my brothers and sisters in Nepal to support peace. Modi also chaired an emergency security meeting with his cabinet colleagues on Tuesday to discuss the situation. Much like it was caught off guard by the uprising in Sri Lanka in 2022 that forced the then-President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to flee the country, analysts say India was taken by surprise by the developments in Nepal, with Oli resigning just a week ahead of a planned visit to Delhi. Any instability in the country is a cause of concern for India because of Nepal's strategic location. The Western Theatre Command of China sits right across Nepal. The route to the Indo-Gangetic Plains comes straight through Nepal, Marj Jain, RETD, Ashik Mehta, an expert on Nepal, told the BBC. The unrest also has implications for the large Nepalese diaspora in India. An estimated 3.5 million Nepalese work or live in India, but experts say the actual number could be much higher. Nepal is predominantly a Hindu-majority country and communities across the border have close family ties. People travel between the two countries without a visa or passport. Nepalese can also work in India without restriction under a 1950 treaty, the only country along with Bhutan in the region to have this arrangement. In addition to this, 32,000 famed Gurkha soldiers of Nepal serve in the Indian Army under a decades-old special agreement. Since the border is open, the communities enjoy a lived experience. Families on both sides interact with each other on a daily basis, says Professor Sangeeta Thapliyal of Delhi's Jawaharlal Nehru University, JNU. Nepal is also home to several important Hindu holy sites, including the Muktinath Temple in the Trans-Himalayan Mountains. Thousands of Hindu pilgrims from India visit the temple every year. Meanwhile, Kathmandu depends heavily on Indian exports, especially oil and food, with India-Nepal annual bilateral trade estimated at $8.5 billion, £6.28 billion. While a fragile sense of calm returned to Kathmandu on Wednesday, experts say India will have to walk a diplomatic tightrope, as there's widespread anger among Nepalese protesters at all three major political parties that have ruled the country. And India has maintained close contacts with all of them, the Communist Party of Nepal, CPN, UML, headed by Oli, the Nepali Congress of Sher Bahadur Juba, and the Communist Party of Nepal, Maoist Centre, led by Pushpa Kamal Dahal, who is known as Prachanda. Given the Himalayan nation's strategic location, both India and China are vying for influence in the country, leading to accusations the two Asian giants are meddling in the internal affairs of Nepal. It's not clear what kind of administration will replace Oli, one that is also acceptable to the protesters. Since the shape of the new government or leadership is uncertain, India will be cautious, Professor Thapliyal says. They don't want another Bangladesh type of situation in Nepal. Delhi had cordial relations with ousted Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, but ties with the current interim administration are strained over India's decision to give Hasina shelter in the country. Nepal and India, too, have had their differences, and those will now have to be managed with extra care. In 2019, Nepal was furious after India published a map that included areas claimed by Kathmandu, in a western region close to the border with China, as part of its territory. The diplomatic wrangle escalated after Nepal published its own map which included those disputed areas. Recently, India and China have agreed to resume trade at one of the border areas claimed by Nepal. During his visit to China last month, Oli raised the issue with the Chinese leadership, objecting to the Lipulik Pass being used as a trade route. Experts say India will have to reach out to the new administration to iron out any differences, and also engage with young Nepalese who are angry with the political establishment. There are fewer opportunities within Nepal for the youth. India should actively consider increasing fellowships for Nepalese students and provide more job opportunities, says Professor Thapliyal. With the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, a regional grouping, remaining dormant, it's going to be a challenge for India to deal with the political changes and instability in its neighborhood. The crisis in Nepal has blown up as relations with Pakistan are at a low point, ties with Bangladesh remain strained and Myanmar is engulfed in civil war. India has taken its eyes off the neighborhood due to its great power ambitions. But to achieve that, you need to have a secure and stable neighborhood, Mr. Mehta argues. Nepal crisis, army deployed as death toll rises amid political turmoil. Published by UN News, the United Nations. The 10th of September 2025 Peace and Security. The death toll from Nepal's youth-led anti-corruption protests has climbed to 30, with political uncertainty continuing on Wednesday, day 3 of a dramatic crisis that forced the resignation of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and left government buildings in flames across the capital and beyond.
New and old terminologist. The context of in which information is produced in a change with the time about the language and meanings, historical records suggesting of the variety of the languages which have changed considerably over the years In medieval Palestine, for example, the different from the model prison, the difference is not just the organization, grammar and the vocabulary. இதை நம்ம பார்த்துட்டோம்.
The unrest began Monday as a self-styled Gen Z protest against corruption, nepotism and restrictions on social media. It quickly escalated after security forces opened fire on the crowds. By Tuesday, protesters had stormed and torched Parliament, the Supreme Court and multiple government offices, including Singha Durbar, the central administrative complex. Homes of political leaders were attacked, police stations overrun, and Tribhuvan International Airport briefly closed. In addition, media outlets and schools were set on fire, while the Ministry of Health and Population was also destroyed, including the National Health Emergency Operations Center. UN chief urges dialogue. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said he was deeply saddened by the loss of life and urged restraint, dialogue, and a thorough investigation into the violence. I call on the authorities to comply with human rights law, he posted on social media late on Tuesday, New York time. Protests must take place in a peaceful manner, respecting life and property. I'm closely following the situation in Nepal and I'm deeply saddened by the loss of life. I urge a thorough investigation, restraint to avoid further escalation of violence and dialogue towards forging a constructive path forward. I call on the authorities to comply with human volatile